Hi, my name is Brad Fisher with Solid Financial Solutions. We got a lot of material to share with you in such a short period of time. Now, if you would, pay very close attention. Take notes as we're going to move quickly. Top secret. There are secret strategies of the ultra-rich that the everyday investor can also participate in when we're talking about investing. There's also a lot of things that the government and the banks are not communicating to us. We're kept in the dark on a lot of things. During this presentation, I'm going to reveal to you some of those secrets today. Out of roughly 7 billion people on the planet, there's about 1,400 that made the billionaire mark. Out of these sophisticated investors that you see before you here, and these multi-billionaires, there's something that every single one of them has in common. Now, they're just normal people like you and me. They eat, sleep, breathe the same as we do. They all have 24 hours in a day just like we do. But there is one thing, one important thing that sets them apart from everyone else. Their mind. Their mind. It's how they think. That's simple. It's how they think that sets them apart from everybody else. See, if we do what everybody else is doing, we'll end up where everybody else is. And where is that? It's living paycheck to paycheck at a job, just over broke job, and it's painful. We need to begin to think differently if we're going to end up in a different place as everybody else. Secret number one, the strategy that these people use when they first think differently by using their mind, it's how they think in terms of leverage. Very powerful strategy. Leverage is to do a whole lot with very, very little effort. That's what leverage is. Here's a few examples of how these people leverage themselves and use that to their advantage. One is through time. Here's an example. Peter Daniels, who you saw me with earlier, owned the largest real estate company in Australia, and he had over 20,000 employees doing work for him, whether he was working or not. That's one way, through having employees. And we got to remember how important time is. See, time is something we cannot purchase. Time is something we cannot buy. And we only have 24 hours a day, so we need to leverage that time. That's number one. Number two is through money. A lot of these people borrow money and invest into things that appreciate in value and are tax deductible. Whereas the average Joe Blow borrows money that they can't even afford to borrow in the first place, buying assets that depreciate in value, that don't even go up. The third way, the most exciting way, the one I'm going to talk about today and focus on, is through timing, wealth cycles. In other words, how to invest at the right place at the right time so you ride up a great transfer of wealth, knowing which asset class to pull out of and which one to put in. Secret number two, understanding the power of a wealth cycle. That's the one we're going to focus on. How do you define a wealth cycle? Well, the easiest way was put to me was if you had a rusted out dinghy or a high-end yacht in the ocean. Doesn't matter what the two look like. When that tide comes in, they both float and rise to the top. That's the power of a wealth cycle. Here's some examples that'll blow you away. In 1930, roughly 24 ounces of gold would have bought you a neighborhood in downtown Berlin, Germany. Yes, a neighborhood. Because money didn't disappear, it transferred, it moved. When you tried to get gold and silver back then, you couldn't if your life depended on it. Everybody wanted it because the paper currency failed and people wanted real money. Another example is in the 30s. Had you had lost 90% of your wealth in the stock market because the market dropped, but only had 10% of that in physical gold and silver, you were 2.5 times wealthier when it was all over. My favorite example of all, in 1971 to 1980, had you invested $20,000 into a single family, medium priced house, about 9-10 years later it would have grown to $40,000. Not bad. You would have made 100% return on your money in that time frame. And that's typically what we do in a single family home market. We'll double once every 10 years on average. But now if you went back in time and you understood what I was trying to share with you today, the power of a wealth cycle, and you studied it, you would have noticed that we were in a hard asset wealth cycle. Had you had invested that 20 grand into silver as an example, 9-10 years later it would have grown to $770,796. You would have made 3,600% return on your money, and you could have bought 18 houses instead of doubling the one. That is the power of a wealth cycle. See, at a young age, at 17, when I bought my first piece of real estate, I made money a little guy should have made, not because I knew anything about real estate, because I fluked out. I essentially bought a piece of property, a home, at the right place at the right time, and rode up a wealth cycle. Secret number 3 is this one right here, learning from history. King Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, taught us a very important lesson. Basically, he taught us that the thing we can learn from history is that people don't learn from history. That what's happened before will happen again. Nothing is new under the sun. Everything goes into a complete circle. In 1930, what we saw happen was a depression and a recession. See, there were so many people that were wiped out during that time. The middle class was wiped out. But yet in any crisis, there was always an opportunity. There was an opportunity for those that had the eyes to see it and acted on it. There were never more millionaires ever made than ever before, except through the 30s. But also, the greatest number of people wiped out occurred through the 30s as well. So the question you need to ask yourself is, which path are you on? Are you on the winning side of the wealth cycle or the losing side? See, the problem over the last 70 years is we've built a world on 3 things: debt, credit, and greed. What a lot of people don't realize is that history repeats itself, and we can only go so far on debt, credit, and greed before things have to start over and reset. This is about to blow. If you look at the chart here, you'll see even Elmo's got it. He can figure it out. We see a chart that represents national debt per capita in red, and then US annual per capita income. You see how it starts to spread apart real quickly near the end. And what's interesting is that's 2009. Can you imagine what that looks like today? $1 trillion looks like that. That's $100 bills stacked on pallets right next to a football field. That represents about $1 trillion. This here represents $114.5 trillion. The United States government has printed more money in the last 2 years than the prior 100 years. And what people need to realize is that every currency has a life expectancy. There's been thousands that have failed. Not one survives. See, as soon as you take gold and physical silver and you remove it from paper, there's no accountability. So in 1971, Nixon did that to the United States. He removed gold and silver from their paper dollar. And ever since then, they've just been able to print all the money they want. And the problem with that is the more you print, the less your money is worth. Warren Buffett said, we need to be greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when they're greedy. See, we need to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And that brings me to secret number 4. It's the opportunity. Seeing the opportunity. See, in 1930, they printed so much paper it became worthless. You heard stories of people that actually dropped off the wheelbarrow full of money, went into the store, came out, the wheelbarrow was gone, but the money was there. In Germany, there was about 500 trillion marks that were in circulation during that time. A pair of shoes was worth 30 trillion marks, and one egg was worth about 80 billion marks. If you look throughout history, hard assets win time and time again. Hard assets beat inflation. The more they print, they go up in value. They don't go down when there's inflation. People run to what's real and tangible, things that they can physically hold, own, and control. When I study these billionaires, it's obvious they make their money in different industries, most of them. But what's interesting is when you follow where they invest their money after they make it, I hear about 2 or 3 different things. I hear constantly, hard assets, hard assets, hard assets. I hear if you must invest in the stock market, treat it like a cold shower. Get in, then get out. Or follow the queen, invest where she invests. The third thing I hear time and time again is the future is in farming. See, once people can feed themselves and they have water to drink, the next most important thing they have is protecting their capital when there's chaos and volatility. And that's how they do it, is through hard assets. So I want to summarize what it is that we do. We teach people how to protect, preserve, and prosper what they've worked so hard for. And we do that through teaching them about the correct wealth cycle. What is a wealth cycle? What does it look like? And which asset class do people pull out of? Which ones do they invest in so they can ride up that cycle of wealth? That's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we teach people the importance of diversifying so that they don't have all their eggs in one basket. See, no matter how good the basket, you don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Number 3 is we teach people how to plan and keep accountable. A lot of people we meet are not on track. They're nowhere near prepared. And it saddens me, we see so many people nearing retirement and they're scrambling to get it together. That's the time when they should be gearing down, not trying to gear up in panic mode. So the earlier people start, the better. We have a super low-key approach. We believe if something is that good, it doesn't need to be sold. Basically, all we do is we keep it very simple. We teach people what we do personally, and they decide which areas that they want to look at. Education is our focus. We believe that people need to be educated so that they can make an informed decision. See, the less educated a person is, the greater the risk. The more educated a person is, that's how we mitigate risk. We do the best we can to help people so that they in turn refer others to us. That's how we've built and grown our business over the years. We won't refuse anyone, whether they're 18 years old or 80. We want to help, provided that somebody is serious about their retirement and is hungry and passionate to learn how to get ahead. See, I'm where I am today because I had people that poured time into me, whether I was a financial benefit to them or not. So there's a lot of companies out there that will only help people if they have X number of dollars. We're certainly not like that. But what we are concerned about is the baby boomers. See, this group of people have the most at risk. They're nearing retirement with almost all their eggs in one basket. The majority of them have RSPs, and the majority of them have all this money tied to the stock market. So I have a few questions to ask you. Do you have a plan, and are you on track for retirement? Are you happy and are you confident with the performance of your current investment portfolio? And are you aware of what's rolling out within the global economy and how that will affect you? And are you well positioned financially to hedge this storm? And are you at the right place to ride up the wealth transfer? We are coming up against one of the largest transfers of wealth in history for two reasons. Number one, there's never been 7 billion people on the planet before, so there's more money in the system. Number two, the US government, the US currency, represents 70% of all the base money in the world, all the physical money, and it's about to foreclose. That currency is about to come to an end. So if you've answered no to any of the questions above, we'd love to help you. We'd love to educate you and teach you how to be on the winning side of this transfer of wealth as opposed to the losing end. Call our number below or simply email us. We'd love to hear from you.